Today, I'm joined by Jamie Giannino, a speech-language pathologist and owner of WordWise Speech Therapy, a boutique private practice specializing in early language, parent training, school-age language, and speech sound disorders. WordWise Speech recently branched off to include a nonprofit charity, WordWise Speech Foundation, wherein Jamie donates time, therapeutic intervention, and scholarship funds to families that demonstrate economic hardship. I love that. Telepractice is just one of the many areas of clinical expertise and excellence that Jamie offers based on her career working in very clinical settings. Jamie has a penchant for seeking out the fun in life and blending that with her teletherapy, fully believing that time spent having fun for oneself away from speech therapy makes one a better speech therapist. Jamie, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
So, does that cover everything, or is there anything else you want to add before we discuss SLP entrepreneurship?
That does cover everything, especially the bit about having fun. It's just so important.
Totally up your alley. Jamie and I got to know each other a little bit. She was part of our SLP Creative Con. So it's been a pleasure getting to know Jamie a little bit more. And Jamie definitely lives life to the fullest. Jamie, can you tell everybody where you're at right now?
I'm literally at the beach, right now.
I can't say
Uh,
I've ever had somebody on the podcast who's at the beach at the same time.
I make it work. I have like a little desk thing that kind of mounts over my steering wheel. Like I'm in my car. I'm not like outside at the beach, but I'm in my car, the beach parking lot, ready to go. It's the first sunny day in a month here, so I'm ready. I'm plugged in. I got my hotspot, and that's it. It's great. I actually do this all the time,
I love
unfortunately.
that.
Some of my clients, but I do. I do it all the time.
Well, we'll talk about how you've been able to build that for yourself with your private practice. So, how do you know? I just actually had somebody on the podcast talking about starting her private practice as well. And we were talking about how to know whether private practice is right for you. So, I'm curious, what are your thoughts?
Well, it's kind of person specific, everybody has their own motivation for things. I'll talk about how I knew private practice was right for me, and it will probably resonate with a lot of other people. And the big thing was that I just kind of got tired of the drama of working for someone else, especially someone else that I knew did not value me as a clinician. And I knew that they didn't value other clinicians that they had as well. And that was kind of like what really gave me the impetus, like, "Ugh, all right, that's not really fun or cool. I don't really like it." I also I personally had this strong desire to change the field. I saw how many families were just disserviced by these huge agencies that had just terrible speech therapists. Like I'm in New York City, New Long Island, so I've seen a lot. There's a lot of people here. There's a lot of different companies here, and you could just tell the ones that don't really care. They are just there to make money. The kids are just numbers to them, and I didn't ever fit in with that. I always wanted to do better and be more for my families. And then I realized that I was like, wait a minute, I'm not getting paid enough to care about these people the way I wanted to. I wanted to be the therapist that, a parent who's struggling with feeding their kid, I wanted to be the therapist that they could reach out to, 8 o'clock at night and be like, oh my God, so and so just ate a strawberry for the first time in their entire life. And I wanted to be there to celebrate that with them and be more accessible to people in that way while still being flexible for myself. So now that I've been able to carve out kind of my own space in the speech therapy world, I feel like I can offer something so unique that it's like, hey, I actually really care about your kid. And I feel that that's a lot of people who go into private practice have that exact mindset too. Like, I actually care. Your kid's not just a number. I don't forget about him when I leave for the day. So I really liked that. I think that for me, I really wanted to change so much about the field, so much that was inequitable to other people. And that's really why I started the foundation too, was because I had to turn down so many people that, couldn't afford private pay because it's expensive.
Mhm.
We're out here charging our worth, which we all should be doing, But for many people, that's just not a reality. It's just not feasible to pay, whatever we're charging week over week for their kids. So I wanted to do my own thing and be able to donate time and to donate my skills and, to get scholarship funds to help people who couldn't afford it, to help them access the therapy. So that's how I knew it was right for me. But in general, people who are looking to do private practice, they might feel the same about being tired of the drama of working for someone else. They also might realize how much more money there is to be made by working for yourself. Your income's never really limited. Whereas if you work for someone else, your caseload could be bursting at the seams, but you're still going to get paid the same amount of money for working twice, three times, four times as hard as you could be doing, at the bare minimum. Another person, if they are thinking about private practice, they might be thinking about the organization, the planning bit, and the putting yourself out there thing, and might think, okay, well, I can't really do that so much, but I'm here to tell you that I am the least organized. I do not plan anything. And, believe it or not, I actually do have a really hard time putting myself out there. Talking to referral sources and things is really kind of hard for me. But if I can do it, then you can do it, kind of thing. If I can put myself out there being shy, disorganized, not good at planning and making it work, then anybody else can too. I also think that if you have any sort of, I'm not even going to call it an entrepreneurial mindset, because I don't have one of those either. But, you just kind of think differently. Think about multiple ways that you can help people. You don't just pigeonhole yourself in as like, okay, I only treat kids with this. It's cool to specialize, but it's also cool to think about other ways that you make it all work for you. And then, I think the biggest thing of how to know if private practice is right for you or not is that you really just want to make your own schedule and do your own thing and not really be tied to what other people tell you to do. Because we all know that it's not always right, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, I think that's kind of how I knew it was right for me. I had a combination of all those things. I wanted to make my own schedule. I wanted it so that I had days during the week that I knew I wasn't treating until later at night, so that I could go hang out at the beach all day or go play on my jet ski all day. So you got me on one of those days. Like it's a Wednesday. I don't work until 5 o'clock on Wednesday, so I have all day to play on the beach, and I just wouldn't have it any other way. It's great.
Such an inspiration. I love that. I was listening to a podcast recently and I feel bad because I can't remember who it was and I would love to quote them, but they were talking about three different types of entrepreneurs.
Mm.
There's the mountain climber entrepreneur like Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, who they're always seeing like the next big opportunity and nothing's going to stop them. Then there's the like, fuck you entrepreneur, excuse my language. I don't think I've ever cussed on this podcast ever, but anyway.
Excellent. That's me, 100%. Say no more. I'm definitely the fuck you entrepreneur.
Yeah, who like isn't really looking to grow scale to this massive corporation, but is just looking for freedom and flexibility and being in control of their own life. So when you were describing some of your priorities, which are also my priorities, we both can identify with that. I think everybody has a combination of all three of these, but I do think they did find that people were more prominent in one area than the other. And the last one is the creative entrepreneur who just wants to create, but really does not want to know anything about running a business. So these are people like on Etsy, probably, that have to just learn. They actually are pretty successful a lot of the time because they're so innovative or so charismatic that people are just naturally drawn to them and will pay them anything for what they're creating, but they have no clue about running a business or hiring people and they don't care and they might not even need to. So which one of those do you feel like you resonate with? Is it the middle one?
Obviously, yeah. I love that because there is a fair degree of that made me like, okay, you're going to tell me that I can't do this. All right, well, watch me do it then, because
Right.
I'm going to do it either way. And yeah, that's definitely me, is the middle one. 100%.
Me too. That's
I love
great.
it.
So, how do people or SLPs in particular, how should they start to recognize the signs of burnout, job incompatibility, and low pay?
Well, excellent transition, because we just talked about which kind of entrepreneur I am. It's the
Yes.
so I started to recognize it, you know, with a former employer, unfortunately, got me burned out, got me feeling like I was not good enough to do all this stuff. And once I really took a step back to realize what was actually going on, I was burnt out, not jiving with the ethics of a particular place that I was working. I realized it wasn't me, you know? So I kind of did some work to figure out what the signs of burnout were. And I was shocked when I was like, oh wow, I actually fit all of these. All of these are the way that I'm feeling. And here I am like, I need extra sessions with my therapist. So what is wrong with me? Oh my God, it's terrible. But it was actually where I was working, because I was burnt out. I was incompatible with them, and I was paid like garbage. So I will share my kind of signs that I saw when, thinking, "Oh, am I getting burnt out?" I was, yeah, I am getting burnt out, because I felt this huge sense of failure and self-doubt. I just felt I was the worst speech therapist that ever walked the face of the earth. What am I doing? I'm such a poser. I don't know how to do any of this. And really, that was unfortunately instilled in me by an employer. It wasn't actually the way that I felt about myself, because once I got away from them, I was like, wait a second, what am I thinking that I'm a failure for? I have this degree. I did all this stuff. Why am I doubting myself? Another thing that I realized was that I felt helpless, trapped, and defeated. I felt so trapped when I worked there. My boyfriend would be like, "You gotta quit." And I'm like, I can't quit. I need money. Now I have replaced that income at least 100%, probably more now that I'm doing more and I'm further away from them. I've realized, oh wow, okay. I never really was trapped. I felt trapped, but I wasn't. I felt so defeated. I felt so helpless. You would try to advocate for yourself and your fellow clinicians, and it would just get thrown back in your face. Was a big sign. And another one was I felt super detached from everybody else. Now that I'm in private practice, I'm making friends, and they're just people on Instagram that I'm making these friendships with. And I felt so alone this time last year when I was working for them and trying to do my own thing. I was like, I'm just doing this all by myself. I have no speech therapy friends. And now I'm like, wait a second. Yes, I do. And I can make friends, it's not me. And then another sign that I saw was a loss of motivation and being increasingly cynical and having this negative outlook. Oh, this field sucks. Everything in it sucks. I'm so unmotivated. I don't want to learn anything new because I'm just so defeated and unmotivated. And then the last kind of sign that I really put together for myself, that I was like, I think I'm burnt out, is that I was so unsatisfied and I had no sense of accomplishment. I remember that when I worked for someone else, I had one of the highest graduation rates on the entire team. So my clients were graduating from speech therapy. And I actually kind of got in trouble for it. Why are you graduating everybody so quickly? I'm like, because I'm a good therapist and they're making progress. Well, no, you're going to want to keep them on because, whatever reason, AKA we need some money. So, it was like, what am I doing? Why am I having all these accomplishments and getting people graduated in an appropriate timeline for them? And I'm getting in trouble for it. Like, whatever. So those were just my signs that I'm like, all right, I'm burnt out. I'm done. I gotta go. Speaking specifically about, feeling incompatible with an employer, what I felt and what other people might feel is you would have these doubts about their ethics. You know, that's not normal. You shouldn't question another speech therapist's ethics unless you really had a reason to do it.
Mm.
So if you ever feel like, okay, this isn't really ethically right, it sits funny with me, like the thing about, I'll keep people on caseload for longer. That's not ethically appropriate. So I just always had such an issue with the ethics behind it all. And that was just another huge motivating thing for me. I know that I don't have to question my ethics. I have to question other people's ethics, but I don't have to question mine. Another sign that I was incompatible with where I was working was that I never got good feedback ever. Everything was, you're doing this wrong, you're doing that wrong, you don't have enough therapy times open. How dare you take a break? What are you doing? You're taking a half an hour lunch break that we're not going to pay you for. Well, you better be back at the exact time. It was just anything that they saw as not good enough. It was just no praise. There's nothing positive you're hearing. That's a good way to tell you're incompatible. If somebody's always telling you what you're doing wrong, nothing's ever good enough for them. Everything is always incorrect. Goodbye.
Have you ever wondered how much time it takes to run a business, how to build a profitable business? Am I even qualified to be an entrepreneur? And what legal considerations do I need to know? If so, you are not alone. We had the same questions because the reality is most graduate programs don't cover business. Yet many SLPs find themselves in the business world, from private practice to product development, school contracting, and so much more. That's why we're excited to share about a virtual event for SLPs looking to start or grow a business. It's the second annual SLP Creative Con, and it takes place on Saturday, March 23rd, 2024. I've teamed up with 6 other speakers to cover business topics like School Contracting 101 with Elise Mitchell, Bookkeeping 101 with my personal bookkeeper, Private Practice Branding with Marsha Church, Social Media Marketing with Sarah Brashears from Social Moguls, Finding an Office with Niche Fraser, and AI Tools for SLPs with my friend Dej Mitchell. And the best part is, SLP Creative Con registration is now open, and I've got some fantastic news for those of you who sign up early, including a free ticket to the live event and early access pricing for VIPs who want the replays and CEUs. Go to slpcreativecon.com or message the word business to Speechie Side Up on Instagram, and I'll send you all the details. If you're ready to start or grow your business, then make sure you register for SLP Creative Con before early access ends on March 22nd at midnight. It's time to make those business dreams a reality, my friend.
Another one is you're working too many hours and you can realize that they're taking advantage of you. I had a friend whose caseload max was 40 hours a week. And then, by the time everything was all said and done, oh, can you do us a favor? This one needs, you got to see this client for us. Can you pick up this one? Mandatory one new evaluation a week just to keep your skills sharp. By the time she was said and done, she was working 60 hours and getting paid for 40. And no, you can't do that. They take advantage. Us as speech therapists, we're all kind of the same. Our profession is really rooted in social justice and being nice and being a nice girl and making sure that you're going above and beyond for everybody else, but not yourself, while sacrificing yourself and your time to make sure everybody else is taken care of. And a lot of these employers know that, and they do this on purpose because they know that we're not going to say no to taking on, oh, well, this one needs a speech therapist. You got to help. Okay, I know. And then another one that, made me at least see that I was incompatible was how many promotions and raises I got passed over for. Like, if I'm a good therapist and my graduation rate is awesome, why aren't you promoting me? Why don't I get a raise? And also, why is my pay garbage, like at the floor? So that's my next kind of point. How do I know that I'm being underpaid? Chances are that you are, because everybody's getting underpaid if they work for somebody else. The only place I've seen this be somewhat fair is in early intervention, because they have to make money. The companies have to make money. Absolutely. Now that I'm on the other side, I see where they have to make money, but I could also see where it's not fair to the person who's actually doing the work. the therapist should not be getting paid 30%. They should be getting paid at least 50% of what you're bringing in. They're the one doing the work, you know? So I did some calculations and realized that, we were making 20 something dollars a session, but the company was making 75, now 100 a session. And why am I getting paid 20% of that, even with all your profit margins and everything? That I just believe that the person doing the work should get a good chunk of that money. And it's region specific in terms of low pay, what's really low, because where I am in New York, rates that now I laugh at are good rates for somebody in, the middle of Arkansas or something, the middle of nowhere. In New York, we have to get paid more because it's so much more expensive to live here. I remember that I begged for a raise after 2 years and I was laughed at. They were like, "No, you're the highest paid person on the team." I'm like, first of all, no, I'm not, because I asked other people. And, that's another thing. We should not be afraid to talk about money as skilled professionals, because we spent a lot of money on these degrees. We shouldn't be afraid to talk about money with other people. And I do remember that that was like such a crime. Like, oh my God, you're discussing pay with other employees? Oh, how dare you? And then I realized that there's no law that tells us we can't. We should be discussing pay. And when I called them out on that and be like, actually, I'm not the highest paid person on the team because I talked to so-and-so and you told her that she was the highest paid person on the team and all this stuff, it's just not right, So where I was begging for a raise of a couple of dollars to get me up to $50 an hour, which I feel like is fair for New York. I was laughed at and my rate did not go above $41. And that's just abysmal for New York. That is nothing. Unfortunately, it's really sad, but like the adjusted poverty line here in New York is something like $40,000 or $50,000 a year. It's disgusting, the cost of living here. Now I make between 120 and 150 an hour, and I was fighting and scratching and clawing my way to 50, and I honestly would have taken 45, but they didn't want to go above 41. So whatever. I wouldn't even consider anything less than that. And all of us should be advocating for this kind of pay. We deserve it. Our salaries have not gone up. The cost of living has gone up and COVID pricing is still well in effect. You can't buy a carton of eggs for less than $20. It's just unbelievable. And, how are we all supposed to live? So anybody who's considering that they're being low paid, I would say factor in your benefits, factor in your cost of living, where you live, and see what's really appropriate. Because for me, average SLP salary in New York should be close to 100 grand a year. And I was getting nowhere near that. And when I brought that to, my former employer's attention, they were just, no, that's not right. Actually, yes, it is. He's going to tell me it's not right. That's completely right. So yeah, it's those factors, being incompatible, being burnt out, and being paid like nothing. That was just for me where I was like, okay, I'm done. And I'm not going to be miserable for the rest of my life, really. And that was it. Those kind of signs. It's a lot, but once you sit down and think about it, you can really see.
Yeah. Well, I feel like we are in a little bit of a downer, but it's all the truth. And it was really important that you shared that. So what does it look like to take your power back as an SLP?
Oh, it looks awesome. It is so much fun. Once you kind of have to go through all of that, downer stuff and realize, oh, I'm not really getting what I'm entitled to, what my worth is. And when you take that power back and you realize that you are the only thing that makes speech therapy happen, it's you. Speech therapy can't happen without you. You have to have your own power and you have to have your clinical autonomy be respected. If you think about your doctor, they do not seem like a powerless individual. They
Right.
know that they have the skills and we have the skills too. Our skills are that crucial factor. And think about what we've invested in our skills and education up until this point. My student loans were like $150,000 to get through everything. And, why would I settle for low pay, burnout, incompatibility, questioning ethics? Why would I settle for that when I'm paying this massive student loan bill? No, I need to make $120 an hour to be able to afford my student loans. And, that's just the investment that we've made monetarily into ourselves, not to mention the time. It's, years that we practice, years that we learn how to practice, 9 months to a year that we practice for nothing during our clinical fellowships, and all of those 400 hours or whatever that we've done completely unpaid, so we need to make this money back. We need to be taking our power back. I saw something like a post that was really cool that I'm going to paraphrase, probably not exactly the way that it was, but it was about knowing your worth and knowing your skill set and charging for it. And unfortunately, for a lot of people, money equates to power, especially when you grow up kind of poor like I did. Money opens doors, and money can't buy you happiness, but it can buy you a jet ski, and it can get you really close. So, when I talk about money, it's not from like a perspective of greed. It's money is a necessity for a lot of people. So this post that I'm going to paraphrase it was about this huge shipping company who had a one of their massive ships wasn't working. The engine wasn't working or something. They couldn't figure it out. So they brought in a fancy schmancy mechanical engineer to diagnose and fix the problem, much like you would bring in a skilled clinician to diagnose and fix a communication problem. The ship wasn't generating any money from the company, just sitting in dry dock. They had to figure it out. So the engineer comes in, he examines the ship, he goes through everything, and he figures out the problem. He simply takes his little hammer out from his bag and bangs the engine in precisely the right spot. To everyone's amazement, the engine turns over, starts running. Wow, oh my God, you fixed it. All you did was just bang the side of the engine and it works. Hooray. He then invoices the shipping company $20,000. And the purchasing department is like, oh my God, $20,000 for what? All you did was bang your hammer. Send us an itemized invoice, because there's no way that your hammering costs $20,000. So the engineer does just that. And the invoice reads, swinging the hammer, $2, knowing exactly where to hit with how much force and for what reason, $19,998. It's your skills and your expertise that makes speech therapy happen. It's not you sitting there for a half an hour with them. It's you knowing what to do. It's you knowing the right treatment approach. It's you knowing how to cue. All of these little things that we just think are so blasé and just part of therapy, that's what makes us valuable, because anybody can go and learn what we learn in school. We teach parents what to do all day long, and they do it for free, but it's our expertise that is all behind it. It's our years that we've spent investing in our skills to know what to do and to do it right and to do it effectively. So really, for me, taking my power back, unfortunately, for me, equates to money and being able to buy myself freedom, buy myself fun, buy myself flexibility by not being tied to an employer that doesn't appreciate me. Because I definitely appreciate me, and I appreciate my time, and I appreciate my sacrifices and my skills for sure. And for me, that's been very powerful. It's also powerful to turn down clients that do not jive with me, and I don't have to feel bad about not taking someone who doesn't really fill my cup. I don't like treating X, Y, and Z, so I don't treat it. And I don't have to be forced to take a client that I don't have any experience with. And it feels so much more powerful for me to be able to do it the way I want, to be able to do it the way that I know is right. Because again, my ethics, I know that I'm not going to question my ethics. I know that I'm good. And I just love that. I love having that feeling of power and more, it's like control really over your own life. So for example, if it's going to sound bad, but I love to spend time outside in the summer. Here in New York, it's only nice 3 months out of the year, so I have to take advantage. And if it's a really perfect beach day, perfect jet ski day, I don't really feel so bad about rescheduling people, Whereas in another job, I would be shamed, ridiculed, stopped entirely from doing that. I'd have to lie and say I'm sick. And then, you got to get a sick note or whatever. Now I'm just like, oh, I'm going to have to reschedule. Sorry. And it's great. I feel awesome about it. My clients don't care. They're okay, great. See you Friday. See you Saturday. See you whatever day. And, it's fine. So I just love feeling that power. It feels amazing for me. I just love it.
I love that. I
Yeah.
love that you are just able to live your life and have that power back. And I think one of the important things to note here is that when you were working for somebody else, you doubted a lot of those things.
Oh,
You doubted your abilities because they made you feel that way. Whereas now you know what is true to you and you know your values. So this is a good segue for our last question, which is how can SLPs identify their values and design a practice that works for their life?
well, that's a good one. That's probably my favorite one is figuring out what your values are. Like, so I think that it was you actually. You gave me like a strengths kind of, I don't, do you remember that? It was, yeah,
Yeah.
like a
The
strength
S24,
profile.
right? I think it's
Yeah,
called.
yeah.
Yeah.
It was you. So I kind of had an idea, but then when I did that, that really solidified it for me. Like, okay, wow, these are my values. Leading, therapy from a place of love versus a place of, okay, this is just a number. We got to get our numbers up. I can actually care about other people. And I feel like that's what I value in my practice. That's what gives me the motivation that I need to do what I got to do in practice. But as far as my personal values go, I always am going to prioritize having fun. That's just for me what I need to do to get through what I've been through in my life. I need to have fun all the time. And, maybe that's a trauma response, but that's another day, another conversation for another day. But I just need to have fun all the time. And I need the freedom and the flexibility to do it. So for me, being able to know myself and know that, okay, I'm going to reschedule my whole day if it's a beautiful beach day and I'm not going to feel bad about it, that kind of made it so I can do that kind of thing. I have the flexibility, I have the freedom in my schedule by not working until 5 o'clock on 2 days of the week. The other 2 days a week are completely slammed. And then one day a week is totally off. So I don't work Fridays. I will never work another Friday as long as I live. Maybe I'll do a makeup if it's raining or something like that, but I'll just never work another Friday. And that was just something that I felt was important to me. I am someone who needed a huge work-life balance, heavy on the life, less on the work. So I have really taken a lot of introspection to get to those points, like what I want to value and how I can build it into my practice. And really, the only way to do it is just to do it. You don't have to answer to anybody. If you want Fridays off, take Fridays off. No one's going to yell at you over it. For me, it's just been awesome to live this kind of life. I did not think that it was possible to have my values built into my practice, but it really is. And I'm just shocked to see how much better I feel. I don't feel any of that burnout symptoms. I don't feel like I'm not good enough anymore. I don't feel like I'm detached from speech therapy reality, and I don't feel like I'm alone on an island by myself. I feel so much better. And it's really just because I did my own thing. And that's it. Some people, that's all you can do is just your own thing.
I love that. You're probably feeling more aligned because you are building practice that's built on your strengths and your values. So that's amazing. Jamie, I could talk to you forever, and we'll definitely have to do a follow-up episode. But where can everybody find and connect with you?
Please do. Please do. Please connect with me. I love making friends. You can find me at WordWise Speech on Instagram. That's usually where I hang out the most. Facebook, I'm really not so much on the face. My website is www.wordwisespeech.com. But if you want to be friends with me, find me on Instagram because I will chat you up and I love making friends. So come on down.
It's really funny.
I try my best, Vanita. I really do.
Thank you so much, Jamie. Until next time.
You're so welcome. Thank you, Vanita.